There it goes.
So hold the brake, press the starter button or hold it down.
This one here?
The red one there.
I'll hold it down.
Hold it down. There you go.
Cool.
Just throw that in your pocket.
Okay. Alright, as you saw, hopped on this bike, which is the 2023 Energica EsseEsse9, or EsseEsse9 if you're from Italy and you speak Italian. All electric, so don't try and rev that engine to see if it's gonna go, because it's just gonna go. So hold down that start button, which is this red button here on the right, and off you go. So what's up, everybody? We're just jumping right in because they're trying to get all these test rides in. I'm guessing this ride is going to be a fairly long one. I don't know if you'll be with me the entire time, but we will talk about the 2023 Energica EsseEsse9. So because I didn't get a chance to really talk to anybody about this, and we didn't really get any instruction, you did see as I mounted the bike, it's a heavy bike at 573 pounds, and at a seat height of 31.1 inches. For somebody like me, I'm 5'6", and I have a 30-inch inseam. It was a little bit of a struggle, I'd say, but because you got to get that leg over, and then when you kind of adjust to get the kickstand up, you're gonna want to be careful, especially if this is like your first time mounting a bike like this. We lose people? Yeah, we lost people. If this is your first time mounting a taller bike, especially because of the weight of this bike, which is not very light, you got to account for the battery, and because this bike has a ton of range, it's got a big battery, and so you've got to be careful when you mount the bike. And that's just first and foremost. It's the it's the first thing you do. When you press start, this little go arrow will pop up, and you're basically ready to go. So we've got this little instrument cluster, this little gauge here in front is small. I'm gonna guess that's like 3.5, 4 inches. It's not a large gauge, and so just something to notice right off the bat when you've got bikes that are in this range that have a really nice bright display. I feel like the Energica, and maybe this is in the works, could afford to use more of this real estate here on this how big this gauge cluster is, to give you a little more screen and a little and make it a little more readable, I guess. Legible? That's not the right word. Readable. We'll go with that. But as it is, you got the miles per hour, which is the important thing here. And you got the tachometer, digital tachometer on the left. Everything's digital here, so you're not getting any analog feel, which is great, because on a bike like this, on an electric bike, you're looking and feeling very futuristic with the look and everything. The sound is cool. It's a louder sound than you would hear, I think, than on the like the Livewire or the Zero, which are the other two really popular electric bike brands. It's a louder and a higher pitched hum, kind of a cool sound. But let's talk about a couple of the things right off the bat as we start this ride. This bike has engine braking, and I think there are 4 different modes, and I'll have all this information for you on the screen. There are 4 different modes of aggressiveness for your regenerative engine braking, and all that stuff is going to send more power back to the motor, back to the battery, in order for you to get more range. What's cool about this, and if you've driven an electric car, you know about this too, is it means you're using the brake less. You're just letting that engine slow you down. Whew. All right. Well, that's fun. All right. Ooh, I love electric bikes. Okay. So you're getting that engine braking a little bumpy on this road. You can adjust the rebound, preload, all these things you can adjust in this suspension, both the rear and the front. And I'll have the suspension statistics, or the suspension specs. This is bumpy. Suspension specs for you down in the down here on the screen. God, this is a fun bike to ride, and I wish this wasn't so bumpy. And maybe if we could adjust the suspension, it would feel a little less. It's not like the bumps here aren't. It feels like I'm going up and down and up and down. And maybe we could adjust the suspension to help out with that a little bit. But either way, riding position wise, it's a very nice upright, but I also feel like I could lean forward a little bit in this. It has kind of the bench seat so that you could ride 2 up on this bike. And the material on the seat seems very nice, very plush. It's soft, but it's not too soft, so it doesn't feel like I'm going to hit the bottom of this seat pan. And also, what I did worry about with a seat like this on a bike that's got so much torque, and I'll have the torque numbers here, and a little, maybe I'll also put the horsepower numbers down here for you. What worries me with a seat like this is how you might slide back in it, but because of the material of the seat, I don't feel like I'm going to slide back, and I haven't slid back at all even when we've got on the throttle here. So very, very nice upright riding position at 5'6" and the 30-inch inseam. My knees are hugging the tank nicely and comfortably. So I guess to talk a little bit, as we're just kind of starting this test ride, talk about my test rides and review videos a little bit, how they're structured and why they might seem like they're a little all over the place, is because I'm on just a guided test ride here with a group. You know, this is the same test ride you would have if you signed up for one. You know, I just call these rides as I see them. I don't know the route ahead of time, and I don't I do my homework about the bike that I'm going to ride, but I don't know where we're going, and I don't know how long it's going to be. So I just kind of, as things come up, is how I do my review. So it might seem all over the place, but if you stick with me, hopefully you'll learn something, and hopefully you'll enjoy this review a bit. This road isn't great. So yeah, I just lifted up off the seat a little bit there, and stood up on the pegs, which are very sturdy. They're in a nice position, kind of right underneath me. And like I said, this riding position is very nice on the EsseEsse9. I don't feel like I have to lean forward at all. I feel like I can sit up nice and straight. I do have longish arms. My arm span is about 70 inches, so for 5'6", my arms are kind of long. So you might find yourself leaning forward a little bit more, but what I will say though is it's not going to feel like a huge stretch, or you're not going to be. I'm not putting any pressure at all on my wrist. So for a long ride, you could throw. You know, we've got video here of the EsseEsse9 with some saddlebags on it, and you know, you could take this out on a trip, and especially with the range, I think you wouldn't you'd have a good time. And here we go. Woohoo! All right, so while we're talking about trips, and let's talk a little bit about the range on this motorcycle. It boasts a 260-mile range, and that's all in city. So we're talking about some urban riding. You're riding in the city, and you're probably keeping it, I would say, when you talk about city riding, keeping it under 45. Man, this bike is really easy to ride, really fun. But if you're keeping it under 45, you're going to get about 260 miles on a bike like on the EsseEsse9. If you're talking about all highway miles, you're going to get all the way down to about 130 miles of range, and then a mix of 160, a combined 160 if you're riding city and you're riding highway. Oh man, that is nice. Woo-hoo! All right. So I have barely used front or rear brake because of the regenerative braking, the engine braking here. And this isn't even the most aggressive. I think if they put everything kind of in the middle here, they have, you've got different ride modes, and I'll put the ride modes down here. But you also have different levels of regenerative braking. And so you hear the bike slowing down. I haven't hit the brake at all. I don't think this is like an electric car where let's see, let's not use the see if the turn signal turns off by itself. Nope. So yeah, regenerative braking is so good that I have barely used either the front or the rear brake at all on this ride. And you can see we're getting into it pretty aggressively. I definitely, if this road wasn't so bumpy, I would be tempted to get even more aggressive with this ride, but you know, it's very bumpy. But yeah, again, no, I'm not using the brake at all, which, you know, if you're talking about being maybe a newer rider, it's nice that once you let off that throttle, the bike slows you down a little bit. One of the things I know on a ride like this is if you're having to use the brake and you're not a new rider, maybe not familiar with the road, you can get in trouble on these tight turns. But the engine braking actually kind of helps to keep you in check, to keep that right hand, that throttle hand in check. If maybe you're getting a little too aggressive, it's just going to slow you down. You let off that throttle, you don't have to worry about hitting that brake and maybe worry about trail braking so much when you're in these turns, and it's just doing it all for you. It's really cool. So this is an electric bike. Like I said, if you've driven an electric car, you know that there are different levels of charging. This bike here can go, charge, I'm guessing at a low like 10% range to 80% range in about 40 minutes is what Energica has said. And that 80% is going to get you about 100 miles of range. So, you know, if you're on a longer ride and you want to take this out for a nice leisurely stroll and get out on a day ride, you know that 40 minutes, if you want to charge even further than that 80%, you can do so and maybe take a nice lunch and then have another 130 miles if you're out on the, like I said, if you're out on the highway, another 130 miles worth of range. Man, yeah, this bike. So I guess we can do some comparisons here because you know, when we're talking about electric bikes, there are some big names in the mix, and the two biggest names that I can think of are Livewire and Zero. If you have more, make sure you leave your favorite electric bike company in the comments. But what you're going to get from this bike that you're not going to get in a similarly weighted and a similar bike that has similar horsepower numbers in the Livewire is something that's feels a little more snappy, feels like you can be a little more aggressive with it, especially with the riding position. And really, just in comparison, I feel like this bike is more comfortable to ride. It does weigh a little bit more, but it's definitely within the weight range of the Livewire, which I always thought felt like a heavy electric bike. The Zero is going to come in at considerably less weight, and you actually do feel the weight of this bike. One of the nice things, though, because of the higher seat height at 31.1 inches, is there is an auto reverse that you can use on this motorcycle to help you, so you don't have to necessarily tiptoe. I've heard that it's got a learning curve to it, so if you're going to use that reverse, maybe give it a few tries before you actually give it a whirl, because you don't want to drop this bike at 573 pounds. So we never got into the controls, but let's get into them now. There looks like we've got grip warmers here on the right side. We have a set which looks like you've got your cruise controls on the right side, as well as your power switch on and off. On the left, you've got your high beams, a horn, your ride modes, and then your turn signals. And I don't know if I mentioned earlier, this is a keyless bike, so it just has to be close enough. Your key just has to be close enough to what the onboard computer, I guess, is, or wherever that's located, for it to read it. You did see it have a little trouble on this one, so I don't know if maybe it needed to like go away and then come back. But that was a little strange. Maybe leave it in the comments if you own an Energica and you know of maybe that issue with having the key close enough for the bike to start. You do have looks like a 12-volt USB charge port, so if you've got maybe a navigation system or a phone that you've got up here mounted on the handlebars, then you can charge it as you go. Oh goodness. But yeah, I mean, as far as ride quality, like, it's a little less bumpy on this side, and I feel like we can get into it a little bit more. But the riding position on this bike, the style of the bike has kind of a retro look, which to me is kind of weird. You know, maybe I think of like the steampunky kind of vibe to it, because you know, this is a bike that's got a lot of tech baked in, and a lot of research that has gone into this motorcycle that makes it so. So you're not riding a retro bike at all, right? This is not a retro ICE engine. When I say ICE, I mean internal combustion engine. This isn't an ICE bike. This is that still has kind of like the old, some old tech to it. This is all tech. Oh yeah, I think this guy behind me is getting a little, wants to get more aggressive, and so maybe we'll allow for that here coming up in this turn. So yeah, the bumps on this road, man, makes it really hard to stay in like in a lean, and I've seen too many fail videos where you're in a lean and you hit one of these big bumps and you lose the bike from underneath you. So, you know, I'm trying to do the best that I can, but what I can say for sure is that this bike is so fun to ride. It's super comfortable. Riding position is excellent, and I'll also say, like, as far as like the wind deflection with this little like screen that they've got in front of this headlight is actually helping quite a bit. My motorcycle is that I ride my day-to-day is a 2015 KTM 1290 Super Duke R, and so I do feel like a similar wind deflection from this as you would get kind of with this, the way the headlight is shaped on my my 1290. So like I mentioned before, because of the engine braking, I have barely used this brake. What I will say though is you can turn it off and you can have a more traditional feel of a ride. Oh boy. So top speed on this bike is limited to 125 miles an hour, and I can tell you, just because of how easy it is just to get up to 170 on a road like this, or it's 170 to 70 miles an hour, that it would be very easy to creep up into the 100-mile range and not really know it. So maybe a question you might have about a bike like this is heat, right? Because even though this doesn't have a typical IC engine on it, oh, this guy's really letting us open it up right here. Because it doesn't have that, there is some heat coming from the battery. I don't feel it, but I know that you're gonna get some heat from the battery. I mean, that's just kind of the physics, no, the chemistry of a battery is the heat. So this does have liquid cooling. I don't know too much about electric engines and about electric motors, but what I will say is this bike has not just the J1772, which is your standard, and I'll have like a picture here on the screen to charge this bike, but it also has the CCS connector, which will give you the faster level 2 charging. If you've got a level 2 charger at home, that's going to help charge your bike faster, and especially if you're an everyday rider, you're probably going to want to get one of those CCS level 2 chargers for your house. You can also limit how much the bike charges. I know that there is something to battery health as far as charging it up to 100 every time. So there is technology baked into the bike so that if you don't want it to charge to 100% after every ride or after every charge, you can do that, and you can program that. We didn't really talk about the display, and I believe we're coming close to the end of the ride. But we've got a lot of information here. We've got the time, which I know the time is set. It's like over-the-air time, so you don't have to set the time. That's going to automatically. So even if you lose, let's say you lose the battery power, it's going to sync back up and get you the real time every time. You've got your temperature in Fahrenheit, which I'm sure could be changed to Celsius. You've got your trip meter, and then your range looks like this bike has 27 miles of range left on it. And then your odometer, which this bike is coming up on 1,000 miles now, this demo bike. It shows you your battery capacity right now, which is at 22%. Capacity is probably the wrong word. And then some other, looks like your tire pressure monitors down there as well. And then maybe some warning lights, like check engine and such. But yeah, lots of information here. Looks like there's a Bluetooth connection for your screen, so possibly, and I'll have it up on the screen if you can get a navigation on this screen. But yeah, there's just so much to this bike. And even though this was a fairly long ride, and we did talk about a lot, there's still more to talk about. So if you have questions, make sure you leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, and if I can't answer them, I'll track that answer down for you. Guys, if you like this video, found it helpful at all, make sure you leave that thumbs up down there, which is the like button, and if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Guys, if you're out there riding, please be safe, be kind to one another. My name is Eric, I'm that one guy, and I am out.